Hi, welcome to Poetry Today. Poetry is around us in the rhythms of our lives every day. I'm Sue Roop. I'm sitting in for Jennifer Dotson, who is usually your host. And she is the head of highlandparkpoetry.org. And the first Friday of every month, there's an open mic at Borders Bookstore in Highland Park. So everybody come on out and hear our poets and hear what they're having to say. Today we're celebrating new poets, a new generation of poets. And we have here Jason Shimberg and Jacqueline Harris, and they're going to tell us something about themselves. Jason, why don't you start?
Thank you, Sue. I've been actually writing and reading poetry since college. So I was very into the beat poet scene. I found poetry could help me express myself on a level that I couldn't normally do in everyday life. So I really enjoy the pursuit, definitely.
What do you work in the literature field every day?
I'm a writer-reporter, actually sports. So sports is my calling there, but I would love to write creatively for work.
So the poetry really adds to your life as a sports writer. Would you say that?
I think you have to say it helps. It helps me internalize stuff.
And be able to express it in a longer version of poetry.
For sure.
And Jacqueline, I'm dying to know about you. What have you been up to? How did you come to poetry?
Well, thank you again, Susan. I'm glad to be here. I came to poetry in college, a lot like Jason did. I went to Shimberg College in Waukegan when it was a part of Waukegan community. Graduated in '99. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in Humanities. I've been writing on and off all my life, but I've been writing consistently more often since 1999. I've had 2 short stories published, and as well as my poetry, which I perform.
So do you work in the literature field every day, or?
I'd like to, but not at this time. I have a regular part-time job, and when I'm not doing this, I do this.
Yeah.
And it's very therapeutic for me, and it allows me to adapt and see my world the way I want it to be.
Sure, we all have to do what we have to do to pay the bills, right? And there aren't that many jobs available for creative people, so I'm glad you guys are working on providing us with some new poetry from a younger generation. Would you like to read some of your poetry? Hey, Jason, why don't you start?
Sounds good.
And then we'll go back and forth, because I'm dying to hear what you've been working on.
Okay, I hope you like this one. It's called Wedding Day. Blustering winds enter the auditorium, blowing tulips and rose petals all over the room. The bride is at full gasping tilt, very excited. The groom is uneasy and ruminating, thinking about the woman from the night before. The best man knows the secret and holds his tongue. He is successful and handsome, never married, but makes more money than the groom, a better man. A lavish party follows the ceremony, and the alcohol on this day is sweet, and the hangover lasts 10 years. Those are the great unions. A bridge stands in the middle of the room for a deep and profound metaphor that can only be understood after it is crossed. It's a big step. As the well-lit room goes dark and the over-friendly guests recede, someone remembers their own wedding day and steals a bottle of whiskey from the bar. Jason Shimberg.
That's very good.
Thanks.
Great images.
Thank you.
I was in the scene. Didn't you all like it too? Jacqueline, we'd like to have you read something now, please. Dying to hear.
Well, this poem is called Java Epiphany. In a coffee shop on Davis Street in Evanston, Illinois, I sat warming my hands on a stylish coffee mug that I brought with me from home. The coffee was $4.75, a bit too much, but that was okay. I figured because I was cold and I had the money, I tried to ignore the pain in my stiff, frostbitten fingertips and the noise of the other patrons by watching the hands on a broken clock. The second hand fought valiantly to keep time with the above the barrister's head. It was a losing battle. At 3 p.m. on a cold February afternoon, it was perpetually 9:45. And I closed my eyes and tried to remember what I was doing at 9:45 a.m. Where was I? At home. What was I doing? Drinking coffee. I smiled to myself. It was then that I had the notion to slap myself in the face, but did not. I thought, why am I smiling? My eyes opened to the same vision of the broken clock that was still all tick and no talk, and I stopped smiling. The stylish mug was burning my fingertips, and I tried to think about why there were so many coffee shops in the world and why I was perpetually drawn to them like a moth to a flame. The pads of my fingers were aching red, and I realized that the coffee was a meager indulgence for me that had become a major economic pratfall. I didn't need it. I knew I could live without it. So why drink it? And why here? I paid $4.75 for a cup of black joe I could make for myself at home by the bucketful. Why? Why do I drink this beatnik psychobabble lifestyle? For the company? For the entertainment? To look cool? I don't look cool. To be sophisticated? I could do that at home too. What I realized was that my whole waking life was a caffeinated catastrophe of missing time and of all the missed moments in time. My every thought was now an endless rows of the same connected dots. My drink of choice, my choices, my relationships, my stupid job, my other stupid jobs, my life spinning into infinite nothingness in a cup of froth, Java, and creme. I bought into it. I bought into it all. I bought it, and now it owns me. In a coffee shop on Davis Street in Evanston, Illinois, I slowly sip my life away at $4.75 a cup. Why?
Oh, I like that. It says there's so much commentary that is pertinent to us today with the economic times that we're all going through. We wonder, why do we do these things when we don't have to? And you've brought it right out. Just like your scene at the wedding brought out that whole image of slight deception going on in the background, and yet it's a wedding. Do you have something else to share with us?
Yeah, I'd love to read the next one. It's, if it's of the political spectacle, let's do this. She's a hack and lacks what you have, Barack. Barack is on the attack. Barack picks up the slack. Hillary can't sack Barack. Barack is watching the clock. His time has come. It is his turn. Which he learned after he learned the news about the bombs in Iraq. The right vote is Obama, Barack. So stuff the ballot twice, vote twice, stack for Barack. Hillary lacks Barack's skills for change and hope to rearrange the world Clinton free. Be farther left, I am not smitten with Clinton. Yell and scream and Barack the vote. Be a Barack reactivist. As this race is tight, it will come down to the states the junior senator has affected. So Clinton wants new laws to be written. She wants to tour the country without mittens. She thinks everyone will give her a warm welcome. Well, Miss High C, look for it to be abominably cold. This is not a small town, district, township, or city. Miss Scandal, excuse me, Miss Pretty. This is not your father's country. This is clearly an abomination. Obama, yo-yo, my Obama. If you leave my ma out of this, all you have is OBA, our best applicant. End the drama and vote Obama. Primary and caucus, vote the Democrat into office. As the state of Alabama is the first state in alphabet, Obama will be the first president of his kind for many reasons. Stay black, Barack. You got my vote. And come back again in 2012. Make this country well, and former First Lady, show some feminine chivalry, and bow out Hillary. Signed, sealed, delivered. Barry, I'm yours. P.S. My llama loves Obama.
It's such a good tradition. You know, the political poems have been around for so long, since Allen Ginsberg and Lawrence Ferlinghetti and so many others that are so timely. It's like your reflections of sitting in the coffee shop. And why am I here? What are the social reasons that I'm here? Excuse me. And bringing us into that scene through the images of the election or the images of the coffee shop, and then the society in which all of that takes place. Do you have something else for us, Jacqueline?
Yes. This one is called God and Television. I am not the enemy. You see, God does speak to me in my dreams, in my solitude, and when I'm awake at night. So what is God like? Well, he's a critical artist, a perfectionist in his own right. Why then am I so imperfect? We were watching the news a while back, and God said, keep looking. And I saw a boy in Laramie, Wyoming, crucified. I saw his family cry while others praised the Lord for his damnation on the sidewalk. I saw signs like palm tree branches raised up in the sky that said, Matthew burns in hell. And the family cried and walked by while the church folk on the sidewalk cheered. See, said the Lord. And I said, Lord, what is wrong with me? And my eyes did tear up. Later on, me and God turned on the news, and I saw many things. I saw a man die at the hands of other men, slowly, painfully. They sawed off Nick Berg's head while shouting the name of God over his screams. See, said the Lord. And I said, but Lord, what is wrong with me? And my eyes did tear up again. And still on, I saw a man named Stan who died incarcerated for killing 3. I saw him the most because I think he looked something like me. He never gave back the lives he took, but Stanley made new lives, or tried to, by writing books. They nominated this murderer for a Nobel Prize for Peace, for by staying in one place, his influence went where others had not tried to reach. The newsmen called it a victory. The people wanted him to die. See, said the Lord, and I started to cry. Girl, when we watch the news, why do you weep? Lord, I said, I wish I could see the things through your eyes, and then maybe I wouldn't feel the need to cry. I said, I know, Lord, someday, somehow, we all must one day die, but I don't see these things as blessings. Why? And the Lord said simply, the road is narrow, but there are many turns, and there's still many things that mankind must learn. These things are not blessings. That is why you cry. I have always appointed it unto man to die. These times are not for elation, and that is how sin takes its toll, when men take it upon themselves to play God while others lose their souls. But everyone belongs to be my child, even the hours of this day. I have everything under control, and I will repay. So I said, Lord, what is wrong with me? He said, nothing if you just let it be. Just stay here and talk to me. The Lord fell silent, and so did I. I felt better. I didn't cry.
It's a good poem.
It's powerful. There's a powerful sense of all of us in this society, especially, wondering what's going on. Why are we having so many twists and turns in the road? You know, what is it all about? How did you come to write that?
I saw the murder of, well, I didn't see it, but I saw the murder of Matthew Shepard as it played out on the news with the, the event just stuck in my head, as did the death of Nick Berg, who was a American captured by Sunni militants in Iraq, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And his very brutal and public execution over the internet. And then the story of Stanley Tukey Williams, who was the leader of the Crips gang in LA, responsible for many deaths, went to prison for murder, and became a children's book author.
Really?
And I decided, and he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for this.
He was some man. I read about him.
You did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one?
Yeah. Let's. This is called Two-Face. I didn't want to face him. He was too tough and too mean. Had to replace him because he is a fiend. On the take for cash and jewels. A fast and beautiful world. He rules, at least he thought, until it turned and he got caught. Now he spends time far away because he got high to try and delay the pain, hard from life on the streets and things he saw. When he dreams, it is of backyard fun, when he liked to run and pretend he still runs now from the thing he did not want to see, the face he had to replace. See, that was me.
That's fascinating.
Very
Thanks.
good.
Really good images, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it reminds me of during Allen Ginsberg's time, there was something that he did that nobody else had done, which was the rant. You know, there was this sense that one just had to rant about what was going on in society and all of the inequities. And do you ever get into those feelings that you just have enough of it and you just want to write it down?
Exactly. You
Like,
do.
like you were talking about the news, and the news triggers that. Do you have that sense sometimes too?
I think through pain, there's definitely you definitely grow as a poet. I think there's so much through hardship. Your words become so much greater and more intense. And I think what they did in the Beat generation was they focused on a feeling of beat. What is beat? What am I? I'm run down, and there were a few poets, especially Jack Kerouac, who did all kinds of great things about when I take that travel, when I take that journey through life, what can I become? And he wrote so quickly that it almost became music. It really did. Yeah.
Especially in his stuff on the road. But you have Allen Ginsberg ranting about the cities and what's going on in the cities and how that's unacceptable too. Have you ever heard of Barbara Smith, who was a poet? I was at the Geraldine Dodge Poetry Festival a few weeks ago, which happens every 2 years in Stanhope, New Jersey. And she was a poet who, your work reminds me of her work, except your work is subtler. And it captures a certain kind of moment that we dwell in that moment with you. And you're in that social situation where hers goes on in a different direction. And I wondered if you had another poem to share with us.
I have one more, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
This one is called The Blues Falls Like Rain for Me. Sometimes I listen to the rain as it falls outside my window, and each drop makes its own individual sound like drums beating to the rhythm of my soul. The rain sings to me. The rain sings the blues in my heart, and my spirit swims through the voices of Muddy Waters, Johnny Coltrane, uninhibited, unashamed, and clean. I imagine myself as a star attraction in a juke joint on the Mississippi Delta, dancing alone in a room filled with the couples in motion. As the roof leaks and the floors creak, I dance, and I feel the rain in my eyes, dripping in buckets as my cotton sundress clings to my hips and my thighs, while I smile and turn and wind my emotions around me. I imagine a dark man with hand and face weathered by time, strumming a guitar with his fingertips, and as the rain falls around me from the stage, his words single me out and caress me. I hear his words as he sings to me, much like I hear the rain. He sings to me while I dance. His words are slow. He plays his guitar and says to me, "If you're going to walk all over my love, woman, the least you can do is take off your shoes." And I laugh and I kick my heels up high and my shoes come flying off. And he doesn't even smile back at me. He is so cool. He just keeps playing and singing my sadness away. And he keeps singing to me while I dance. And I dance alone for him and the rain.
Oh, I like that.
Very good.
Do you ever find in poetry, either of you, the rhythms of poetry are so similar to music?
I think lyrics, I think they're hand in hand. I think it's just so much, it has so much to do with rhythm and pace and beat and all those good things. And you walk on the street and you feel that heartbeat and that pulse, and you want to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Do you have a sense in your life that poetry and music go together?
Yes. One of my favorite singers is a lady named Erykah Badu. And her music, if you just read her lyrics alone, there's so much poetry in them. They could stand by themselves without the music behind them or the musical accompaniment.
Mm-hmm.
Words are powerful, but with music, they gather a new energy with them.
Mm-hmm.
It transcends everything. You can hear it. You can feel it almost. It's wonderful.
And it's all around us, isn't it? even with the rap artists. What do you think about the rap artists?
I'm actually more a fan of rock and roll. I loved Jim Morrison. I loved his poetry, the way he expressed himself. I couldn't speak as far. I like reggae rap. Mas Yahoo is a big influence in my life. But there's not too much difference between music and poetry.
But what do you think about the words in the rap music?
Words in the rap music.
Do you think it's like poetry?
Rap in an acronymical form means rhythmic American poetry. It's American art form like jazz is. Because it's often is supposed to reflect the harsh realities of a single set of lives, it can be a little disparaging to hear some of the words. But you got to take into context where the artist or the person that wrote those words is coming from.
Right.
A lot of rappers don't sound the same. You have Common and Mos Def, who are both actors now, who write more of a neo-soul kind of sound.
Yes.
And then you have the gangsta 50 Cent and the like that write a more club atmosphere sound. 50 Cent, Soulja Boy, not to put them in the same rank, but they're kind of they're kind of for a different ear.
Right.
So we as people, we individuals cling to what's familiar to us.
Right.
I like rap music. I personally like the stuff I grew up listening to when I was young, when rap was a little bit more innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hip hop. I like hip hop and neo soul as well as jazz, but I'm big rock, alternative rock and roll fan.
Ah, interesting. Do you find in the alternative rock and roll field that there's a lot of poetry?
There is Smashing Pumpkins, Nine Inch Nails, Modish Yahoo, which you mentioned. A lot of poetry in that. Very, very, very descriptive and metaphorical a lot of times.
So, Jason, do you think that in your experience growing up, the music has changed, so therefore the poetry you've been exposed to has changed?
You know, it's a good question. I'm directly influenced by a lot of my generation, but the music was so good back in the '60s that you had to take it. You have to take it in now. You have to keep replaying those same feelings, and it was so dynamic that you take everything is not copied, but everything comes from that. So rock and roll, poetry has a lot of feelings from back then too. So it's a good question.
Aren't there feelings that are universal, like loss or joy or excitement or moving forward, or just as you wrote in your wedding poem about deception? Would you consider those more universal feelings that keep popping up in poetry no matter how far we go back or go forward? Do you find certain poets have influenced you?
Certain poets have influenced me. Alice Walker, Langston Hughes from the Harlem Renaissance, as well as Edgar Allan Poe, Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost. I read a lot. That's an important thing people don't get about writers. Really good writers read a lot, or at least try to. When we read anything we can get our hands on, even if it's just a street sign, because there's poetry in that. There's poetry around us. There's poetry in our environment. There's poetry in other people. There's poetry in a rock on a street, if you want to look at it that way. But you have to be a reader to be a writer.
You're right. Absolutely. How about you? Do you read a lot? Are there certain poets that influenced you?
You know what? I want to get to a place where I'm reading my own poetry. I want to get to where I'm reading my own. I think I'm working on autobiography that's in completion, near completion actually. I post all my poems on a blog spot at jshimberg.blogspot.com. And as far as reading the internet, there's so much out there. There's so much. There's so many good poets. There's so many bad poets too.
Yeah.
Jacqueline could probably tell you there's a lot more bad than good, but when the good comes out, it's definitely worthwhile hearing it.
But other than the beat poets, were there other poets along the way that influenced you?
And people, I had a great teacher at Naropa. His name was Stephen Taylor, and he was so great that he when he personalized everything, when he talked to you outside of class, it seemed like you could pick up on more and more, and you felt like, yeah, I'm doing a good thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were there any teachers that influenced you?
My 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Keller, was the first person that ever came to me and said, I think there's someone in you that's a very good writer, but you need to apply yourself more, young lady. And I didn't really take it to heart then. I'm glad I take it more to heart now.
Isn't it interesting how teachers can influence us from early on or later or whenever? Suddenly they say something at the right time, and we take it in and we go, oh, yeah, maybe we should pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was later on in high school I got my performing edge from Mr. Kovacic, so I have to mention his name. Dwayne Kovacic at North Chicago High, go Warhawks. And, it's a big part of my life, just writing my thoughts and performing and
It's great.
getting all this energy out of me. 'Cause I have a lot of energy and no place to put it, so.
Well, I'd like to remind everybody to go to Borders Open Mic to the first Friday of every month. It's sponsored by HighlandParkPoetry.org. And if you need, go online, go to HighlandParkPoetry.org online. Look for our new generation of poets, Jason Shimberg and Jacqueline Harris. Look for their work. It is on HighlandParkPoetry.org. Go out and write some poetry. Look around your neighborhood. Find an image that you like, a rock, a tree. Think of some of the beautiful images you've heard here. You've heard about a cup of coffee in a cafe. You've heard about a wedding. You've heard about politics. Go for it. And this is Poetry Today. Look for it on Comcast Local Cable. And the thing is, the poetry's all around us, isn't it? It's everywhere.
I would agree with that.